Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode number 11 of Entrepreneur Gains, where I interview Y Combinator alumni. On today's show, I have Pham, founder of Jumpcut, a startup that creates captivating online courses about entrepreneurship. They've done over $20 million in sales since they started in 2016. Kong was one of the first successful content creators on YouTube and gathered a huge following of over 3 million followers. I genuinely believe Kong and his team are some of the best in the world when it comes to creating viral content. He's also someone I've looked up to in my life. He's a friend, a mentor, and has made a huge impact in my life. I love this episode because there is a lot of focus on mistakes and there is so much to learn. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the episode, and any feedback or constructive criticism is super appreciated. You can reach out to me on entrepreneurgains.com. Hey Kong, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me.
I'm so happy to chat with you, man. I've learned in the past, I've learned so much from you, so this is gonna be pure gold. I know that. Before we start, I want you viewers to know what is your company and like what have you guys done so far and stuff like that.
Yeah, so just to give an intro, my company is called Jumpcut, as you know. And what we do is we create online courses for entrepreneurs and marketers. So our most popular course is called Viral Academy, where we teach people how to start and grow their own YouTube channel. And the goal for Jumpcut essentially was not just to create these courses, but to really change the landscape of online courses. Because what you see in the world right now is people kind of just recording a lecture and then putting it on as an online course, right? And me coming from like a viral video background, I used to make viral videos for a living. I look at that and I go, man, that's so boring. That's so like fucking stale. And so I started Jumpcut to, again, not only create these kind of courses and this content, but to put in more creativity into the courses, make it feel more like a movie than it is a lecture.
Perfect. And actually, by the way, I can relate to that because I watch so many Facebook courses, and when they have the 1 hour videos and they're going rambling about stuff, and you're like, I just give me the main thing. Like, what the hell are you guys talking about? And I
Yeah,
totally
yeah,
know what you mean.
yeah.
What about the numbers? Like, how anything you're willing to share, like amount of money raised, amount of customers, employees, anything like that?
Yeah, so we launched back in 2016, went through Y Combinator, raised about $1.85 million, not about, exactly $1.85 million. And it was kind of off to the races from there. In 2016, we did, gosh, I'm fudging my number, or I'm
All
forgetting
good.
my numbers now. 2016, I want to say we did 4 million in sales, in revenue. Then in uh, oh my God. Oh no, sorry. Okay. So 2016 is when we launched and we did 2 million in revenue. Then 2017 we did 4 million in revenue, maybe 4.5, something like that. And then in 2018 we did 12 million in revenue. So we had a really we had a really big jump, and that was because of doing paid advertising. We got really good at that. Turns out making viral videos translates really well into making viral video ads.
Yep.
So that worked out really well. Unfortunately, and maybe we can talk about this further, but we got caught in this trap of like doing paid acquisition, and we were addicted to it. I think that's what Andrew Chen calls it, getting addicted to paid acquisition. And the reason why that sucks is because, as you know more, as well as anybody, the cost per acquisition gets higher and higher. It becomes harder to get people through paid advertising,
Yep.
right? And that's exactly what happened to us. We kind of, got everybody that we could, and costs started to increase like crazy. And in 2019, we went significantly lower in terms of revenue. I think it was like we went back down to 4 million, and then this year it's going to be a little even less than that.
Wow.
So long story short, we had a really great run. The mistake I think that I made there was that we didn't focus enough on product. We focused too much on making money and profitability and all that stuff.
And growing so fast makes sense.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, and it seems like a great business, right? Because you're like, okay, we have product market fit. We're making $12 million with 5 million in profit,
Yep.
and so you think that that's product market fit. That's really not product market fit, right? So what we saw was that people didn't buy more than one course.
Yep.
A lot of people actually bought the course and then, they didn't even watch the first video.
Right.
So there was a lot of kind of marketing strategies that worked to get people to buy it, but the product itself didn't necessarily achieve what we needed it to in order to scale this into like $1 billion business.
Kind of like that, talking about the R model, you got the acquisition, but the activation and the retention and the referral wasn't there, basically.
Exactly. Yeah.
Got it. Cool. I want to know more. I want to ask you more questions about that whole thing, but let's start with like your startup journey. How did you get into entrepreneurship? How did this whole thing happen?
Yeah, so I was destined to become a doctor, as most Asians are, because my cousin became a dentist, and my parents were like, "You got to become a doctor. You got to follow in your cousin's footsteps. She's like super rich and ballin', so you got to do that too." It wasn't until senior year of high school that I decided, you know what, I want to be an entrepreneur, because I went through this it's kind of like speech and debate, but it's called Future Business Leaders of America. And I just grew in, like, I became fascinated with the world of business, especially entrepreneurship, because I'm somebody who doesn't really like to follow rules. I never was really that great in school either, but I work fucking hard, right? Like, I know I have a good work ethic. I know, like, when I set my mind to something, I can go and do it. And so I went to school instead of going to school for medical. I decided I'm going to go to school for business. So I went to Cal State Fullerton, which I thought was going to be a really great business program. That's what they marketed it as, and they were in some top lists and stuff. Turns out it was a really shitty experience. It was the worst school in the world. I had a great time socially, but the business program there was just, they were teaching you the stupidest things that made no sense. It was very high level,
The four
super
Ps.
super theoretical.
Yep.
And so I decided, you know what, I'm gonna try to start my own business. So throughout my 5 years there, actually, I was there for 5 years, still didn't graduate. Throughout my 5 years there, I dropped out 3 times total. The first 2 times were a bust. I'm not going to get into it, but the third time was because I started a YouTube channel that went semi-viral, and so that was when I dropped out for good, and I never looked back.
Amazing.
And so,
yep.
Yeah, since then, I kind of grew that YouTube channel to it was called Simple Pickup at the time, but now it's changed to my name, Kong Pham. I created that business. I grew that business into about what was it, like $2.4 million per year. With probably 80% of that just being profit. And that was kind of the start of my journey. I just got addicted to, growing businesses, reaching tons of people, having an effect in their lives. And, the money was great, but I think the more satisfying feeling was people emailing you saying, "Hey, you changed my life," or "Hey, you changed my perspective on X, Y, Z." And that was really fulfilling for me.
Love it. Is that where the transition from the YouTube to the Jumpcut happened, which is so much education?
Yeah, so around 2014, 2015, YouTube was doing great, and I just wanted to do something more. Making people laugh on YouTube was great, but I felt like I was kind of doing the same thing over and over again. Like, I always tell people, imagine you were working on, I don't know, name your favorite show, like American Idol. Like, at the beginning, you're kind of changing lives, you're getting people to, go onto the show. But after working there for like 5 years, you're going to be like, hey, I'm doing the same thing over and over. So that's kind of what it was for me, except I was the one on camera. And so I decided I want to do something bigger. I was really into entrepreneurship and the world of startups. So I said, you know what, I want to start a high growth startup. And I thought that was a really challenging thing to do. I thought it was a really great way to impact a lot of people. And at the same time, just have it was going to be hopefully my home run from a professional standpoint. So that was kind of the transition. I just wanted to do something bigger and better, as most entrepreneurs do.
Okay, makes sense. And how was the transition from being a content creator to startups, and how were there challenges when you started Jumpcut, like as compared to doing a YouTube channel?
Oh yeah, so we started Jumpcut, and we wanted to make really. Well, we technically started Jumpcut in 2014, and we wanted to be more like a BuzzFeed.
Okay.
We just didn't get so we got a ton of views. We started a bunch of different channels, the Human Experiment, Random Altruist, What else? Simple, Sexy, Stupid, Hacks of Life, a bunch of them. All really, I would say 90% of them were really successful. And the the trajectory looked really good. The problem was that we didn't want to get into advertising. That's how BuzzFeed makes their money, right? They get a bunch of views and they bring in advertisers. And we said, I don't really want to do that because then there's a ton of red tape, and I'm not the type of person, as I mentioned, that likes to follow rules. So we said, let's do this and try a different business model. Let's try to sell them like maybe courses, right? Something like that. And so long story short, that business model didn't really work out. There were some other issues too.
Yep.
But in 2016, we said, fuck it, let's scrap this whole thing. It's getting a ton of views. It's not making us money. So we can either go down that advertising route, which we didn't want to do, or just do something else. And so we decided, why don't we just take that course idea and make courses instead? Like, why are we going through this like zigzag of like making free content and all that stuff?
Right.
So that's what we did.
And I'm guessing also like you had past experience because you had already done courses in the past as well with like your simple pickup channel, and you had courses over there, so that kind of helped with building like high quality courses, I guess, right?
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
The learnings were there already.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. And how was it? Like how did it go? Like starting out Jumpcut and then the growth part of it, and was it challenging?
It was pretty
Like,
shitty, man,
yeah,
because Jumpcut, to create a really, really great course, it costs money.
yep,
Like if you're just recording a lecture, that doesn't really cost that much, right? That costs you like a couple $1,000s, whatever. In order to create the type of course that we wanted to do, it was going to cost like probably 100, 200 grand, something
yep,
like that. And so we knew pretty early on that we needed to raise money.
yep,
That turned out to be extremely hard to do, just on our own.
yep.
And that's one of the reasons why we went to Y Combinator, because at the end of that 3 months, they have what's called a demo day where you pitch in front of like 800 investors and people say, hey, I want to invest in you or not.
Makes complete sense. Yeah, I remember me and you were chatting about this. We were talking about the Justin Kahn course you guys made on Startup One and how expensive that was, and it was a great course with respect to like the quality and how like bite sized and how to the point it was. Like it was amazing that way. But I can imagine how much work went into it to make it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it was a completely different game because with YouTube, you're looking at videos that are more or less free to create,
Yep.
free to produce. Maybe again, like $1,000 per episode is on the high end. But when you're talking about like a 5-hour course that's really cinematic in nature, now your costs have increased by like 100x.
Right.
And so we didn't have a way to pay for that. So it was really, really hard to, at the beginning, try to create a course that was entertaining, but also cheap and also do it fast.
Right.
And then also trying to raise money at the same time.
Makes sense.
And so it was really difficult because it was something that we've just never done before.
Right. And so right now, like, would you recommend making a course which is like less quality and crazy ass value, or would you recommend still like what would you say? Like, how would you go about it now if you could do it again, I guess?
So here's what I've learned throughout the years when it comes to online courses is that when you are teaching a very niche topic, people don't really care how great of quality it is.
Right.
So for us, the niche topic was, this is how you're going to start and grow a YouTube channel, right? At the end of the day, people just wanted the information so they could succeed and like build their own business.
Right.
Like obviously it has to be entertaining enough that you're not like Bueller,
Yeah.
like that guy, right?
Like Udemy courses. There.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
so there has to be some element of entertainment or like charisma, whatever you want to call it. But the bar is relatively low. Like you don't need to make it a freaking Christopher Nolan movie. Now, what I've learned talking to a lot of users is that on the other side of that, the way the subjects that matter the most when it comes to being super entertaining are the ones that people have to learn. So you're talking about algebra, geometry, English, right? Like, those kind of things. So my advice to anybody who's creating an online course is if you're creating it to target a very niche group of people, like, for example, people who want to be YouTube creators, just make it good. You don't need to make it excellent. Just make it good.
Right.
It can't be terrible, but like the difference between good and amazing, people generally don't really care about when it comes to a niche topic because they're voluntarily learning. They already want to learn. They're already bought in, right? But if you talk about like somebody in community college or maybe like they're in high school and they're learning algebra and they need that to pass their test, they need that to go on to college. Now it's somebody who's not bought into learning. They're just like, fuck, I got to learn this because the the teacher told me to, right? The school requires me to. And that's where I think the really cinematic stuff comes into play, because you're then explaining things to people in a different way that like to people who generally don't want to learn this. And the effect becomes much more it becomes much more effective.
Got it. Makes sense. I actually want to ask a very random question. I came across this like not that long ago. So I've been listening to a podcast with Frank Kern, right? And he does
Mhm.
something where his podcast is not like about like an entire like 40-minute podcast. He does like these 3 to 4 minutes, 5 minutes ask Frank Kern questions, and he just puts those clips of a specific topic as a podcast.
Yeah.
How good do you think would that be in a course, assuming that it's very short, like 5 to 6 minutes, straight to the point, no bullshit course? However, the idea being like packed with value, would you think people would be willing to pay that kind of money? Because would that be the issue where people are like, oh, they can justify paying that much money because it's so short and so to the point?
So there's a little bit of semantics going on here, right?
Yep.
Will they pay for it? That just depends on how you market it,
Right.
right?
Yep.
Will they like the course? That's a different story. Or will they try to get a refund? That's a different story.
Interesting.
So with great marketing, as we found out, you can convince people to pretty much pay for anything,
Right.
right? But how satisfied are they with the course? Are they
Yep.
going to, if you have a return policy, are they going to say, well, I want a refund,
Yep.
right? Or, will they like it so much that they go tell their friends? Will they like it so much that they continue buying courses from you? These are all questions that are also relevant. So I think in terms of that particular format, putting that in a course, yeah, you can get people to buy that. Will they really love it enough so that they're going to stick with your brand and buy more courses? I don't really think so, unless you're going to price it at super cheap.
Interesting. The reason I say this is because I like I try to like always top up with like my Facebook skills, and recently I'm not joking, man. I just got a course with this one agency, Facebook agency called Dominate Web Media, and they are
Mhm.
pretty good. And I got their course. It's a fucking 17-hour course, and
Yeah.
they have these 2-hour videos like webinars and like teaching, and I'm like, man, just give me the fucking point. I don't want like like you go in an hour into something, a concept that I can learn in like 5 minutes. Like
Yeah.
wow, and
Yeah.
that's one of my biggest pet peeves personally. And because I just want the information right away, but I also wonder then, would I be paying $1,000 if I get that in like 1 hour of video? You know what I mean? Like it's a weird one.
Yeah, and there's also the question of, you're a smart guy. I think for a lot of other people, it takes them a little bit longer to learn than somebody
Aggressive.
like you, right? So like when we design our courses, we think about um, somebody who basically almost not necessarily hates learning, but like they don't have
Um,
that like they don't have that eagerness to learn.
to learn.
They're
Got
just
it.
kind of like watching it because they're like, all right, this is going to be good for me. So how do you get to those people? How do you get them to have a paradigm shift, right? How do you get them to think about the world in a different way or think about whatever they're learning in a different way? So you kind of have to make this like all encompassing course that appeals to everybody, including the people who won't pick it up right away.
Makes sense. It's more mainstream audiences compared to a very small subset of the audience.
Yeah, exactly.
Makes sense. Oh, interesting. Okay. I want to move this to the topic of like the market of what does like the future, like you have been in the education space for so long now, right? Like even with your YouTube channel was also in education, was educating people, your company
Mhm.
Jumpcut. Like what do you see as what does the future of education looks like to like according to you?
Um, yeah, I've thought about this a lot.
Yep.
So Bill and Melinda Gates did a really, really great study a few years back, showing the inefficiencies in college, why there's a 50% dropout, I think more than 50%, but 50% ish dropout rate in the US. And, they just kind of broke down all the biggest problems that people face when it comes to college and university. So, not going too much into that, I think kind of a lot of people who think about what the future of education looks like kind of extrapolate from that study, and they try to think about what would the perfect college look like. And everybody has their opinions. I think for me, the biggest uh, value add for college as it is right now is the social aspect. As I mentioned, I didn't learn anything in my school, but I met a lot of cool people, right?
Right.
I met my business partner. I met some people that I still keep in contact with today. And so the future of college to me looks a little something like there's maybe 1 or 2 years of the college as it is right now where there's on-campus activities, you can join clubs, organizations, meet people, and you take a bunch of different courses that that allow you to open up your mind to different job opportunities, right? General education right now is really, really shitty because they make you take, I don't know, like English 201. They make you take, I don't know, at least in my school,
Yeah.
it was accounting. They make you take like this. I took a business
Yo,
writing class that
dude,
was like teaching you how to write memos. I was like, this is so stupid.
dude, I
But
was
those,
dude, I was in engineering. I took anthropology. I'm like, I don't know why.
yeah, exactly. So I think general education should just be like all electives.
Yeah.
So it's like you come in, we have all these courses. You just choose what you think is interesting. It doesn't matter what you choose. You could literally choose the shittiest courses in the world or the easiest ones. That's your problem. Then you're just not going to get a great education. And then you use that to explore what you like and don't like. Right. So
Right.
you can say, all right, well, I like business. Why don't I go to this entrepreneurship class? Well, I like engineering. Why don't I go to this, HTML, CSS class? Something like that. And then from there, after 1 or 2 years of doing that, you kind of had a good sense of, all right, I want to be an engineer now. And then it breaks off into things. From there, you graduate, quote unquote, and then you go into something like Lambda School, for example, that
Right.
teaches you in a year how to be an engineer. Or you go to, imagine if we had a really, actually, we have a boot camp right now that teaches you how to be a YouTube influencer. So you have these kind of like one-off schools that teach you one thing really, really well. And then they help you get a job as well. I think that's where that's how the future of education should look like. The way it is right now, nobody's really getting trained for jobs, right?
Right.
People graduate and they're just like, what the fuck? I don't like if you go through an engineering school, you don't know half the things you should know going into a job at Google, right? You kind of know the very basics and foundation of things, but you're not prepared for the job yet. You have to be prepared or they prepare you once you get hired onto the team.
Makes complete sense. So you're saying basically makes complete sense with the Lambda school. Like there is this, but these are again more like social aspect of it, and then we have like the more like kind of like very specific, like rather than generalizing, very specific knowledge for the job aspect of it, right? But at the same time, now we have the third thing where like what you guys do or what a lot of people do, which is like now we are going into this crazy era of like a lot of info products out, like a lot of different courses in different topics, right?
Mhm.
Do you think the market will get competitive as more and more people make courses, or how do you think that looks?
Yeah, let me actually go back to the original
Yeah.
question. It doesn't just stop there. You don't just say I want to be an engineer
Right.
and then you go get a job and then you're an engineer forever, right? I
Right.
think college should not be a finite thing.
I
It
see what
should
you
be
mean. Yeah.
something that you just keep coming back to if you need to, right?
Yep.
So if you have all of these programs like Lambda School, like Next Gen T or whatever, all these companies that are teaching you these different skills, if you're bored of being an engineer after 5 years, you can go back and say, you know what? I want to do something creative instead. I want to be a designer, or I want to like do like manufacturing, whatever it is, right? Or you can go back and improve your skills as an
Yep.
engineer. So maybe you come back and you learn more languages, you learn AI, you learn cryptocurrencies. So I think that with college and higher education, it should not be finite in the sense that like you take it for 4 years and then you're off to the races and you never look back. It should be something that you can just keep going back and forth to as you need it throughout life.
Makes complete sense. Because
Yeah.
I
So
mean,
so
you
going
have to
going
improve.
back
Yeah.
to your question, sorry, you said, is it going to be overly competitive? Yes, if we continue to operate in this current paradigm, but no, uh, if the general kind of population changes their mindset on what higher education should be. And I think that's happening already. As you've been saying, you've taken plenty of courses, right?
Yep.
I still take courses,
Yep.
online courses. And
Yep.
so what if there was like, instead of just one-off online courses, there were really amazingly put together programs for the things you want to learn?
I love it. Makes complete sense. And so, do you think there will be? Because I don't know why, but I am a big. For some reason I want an Angies list for courses because there's so many out there, and I'm like I only want to know what I don't know. You know what I mean? Do you
Yeah,
think
yeah.
as more and more people, more and more entrepreneurs start making courses, like example, tomorrow maybe a guy who works at Facebook, like is a VP of marketing at Facebook, whatever. He leaves there, he comes out and he's like, hey, I want to teach. Or a VP of advertising at Facebook, for example, right? He comes out, he wants to teach a course on how to do Facebook ads better. Like I would want to watch that, right?
Yep.
Do you think there will be something like that where we see a platform where like people are like putting courses, but like not like just like the Udemy of courses, I mean, but like
Yeah.
actual like people who are very skilled and we going and learning from them, like that's kind of.
I hope so. You kind of see that happening already a little bit
Hmm.
with like I think Udacity is probably a really good example. But yeah, nothing right now exists where it's like a huge database of all the courses, right? So
Right.
I think it'll eventually get there,
Makes
but
sense.
yeah, it's just a matter of when.
Mhm. Awesome. And you see so I think one more question I had regarding this whole thing was you see a lot of course creators. Like you guys teach people and you guys are amazing at what you guys do. What separates a good course creator from a bad one?
Um, the ability to excite people, the ability to get people to buy in. So I'll give you some stats here. With our Viral Academy course, there was it teaches people how to start and grow their YouTube channel, right? Like literally step by step. This is how you got to think of how to come up with your channel idea. This is how you can reach out to blogs for free and get free views. In that course, what we found after taking a survey was, I believe it was 75% of people, 80% of people that bought the course for $1,000 did not start their own YouTube channel.
Wow.
They didn't even start their YouTube channel.
We didn't
Right?
even put one video out.
Yeah, exactly.
Jesus.
And so, we obviously lowered that number as time went on. I think now it's probably closer to around 40% that don't do it, something like that. But the issue here is that a lot of people just don't care, right? They buy the product and they're like, all right, I'll get to it later. So I think a good course creator, when it comes to like not including marketing, right?
Yeah.
Let's just assume this is a free course. I think a good course creator is going to be somebody who is able to get somebody in the door, get them to actually do the work, and get them to be excited to do the work. Now, there are a lot of ways to do that, from how you write your script to gamification, all that stuff. But I think that's what a good creator does. And I think that's what a good teacher does too. They not only teach the subject, but they get people excited to learn about the subject. I think that's a huge, huge aspect of it.
Love it. Okay. Wow. That's a good one. I never thought like that. Makes sense though. Um, let's talk about growth. You guys, as you said, you've done over 20 million in sales with Jumpcut.
Yeah.
You spent a lot of money on advertising.
Yeah.
I remember I think I had a chat with you about this, and you said most of the money you guys spent on YouTube advertising, right?
Yep.
Um, so for someone who's an expert in video marketing like yourself, do you recommend like someone spending a lot of money on ads for like you like as in like making a great ad for YouTube because it's all about the hook, or would you say is recommending keeping it more raw and less budgets, more conceptual kind of stuff?
So it depends. I think if you're good at it, then you can spend a higher budget. Like we generally kind of know what we're doing.
Yep.
I hope. So when we make an ad for ourselves or somebody else, we go, okay, there's like a 85, 90% chance this ad is going to be profitable, right? So therefore we can spend like $20,000-$30,000 on the ad, and that's totally fine. Whereas if you're just starting out and you don't know what you don't know, what my recommendation is spend the least amount of time and resources possible, and just test a bunch of things. So, the one of the ways that we got into ads was, we were trying, in the first year, we were just like, first year and a half, really, all the way up until like 2017-ish. We were just trying everything we could to grow revenue. We did 2 million in 2016. That sounds like a lot, but that was just leveraging the audience that I already had on YouTube. And that audience ran dry real quick.
Right.
Right. So it's like, look, you promote it a couple times and you can't really promote it anymore after that. So we were like desperately trying to do a bunch of things. One of them was video ads. We thought, well, we can make viral videos. Why can't we make a compelling video ad? So the first video ad that I made was actually in our office at the time. And it was filmed with an iPhone, filmed with like video and sound with an iPhone of just me talking to the camera. Right. there was a lot of cool like editing in there, but I just did that myself, like on an editing software. So the entertainment came from the editing, not necessarily like the filming or the quality. So it took me one day to write, film, and edit. Maybe 2 days if you count, exporting and showing people and all that stuff. So let's say 2 days to write, film, and edit that. That ad became successful, or that ad and variation, like small variations of that ad, became extremely successful for us. And I believe, I want to say we spent in the hundreds of thousands of dollars just on that ad that it took me one day to make. And so obviously I have this kind of like mindset of how to make viral videos, how to like almost hypnotize someone to continue watching something.
Right.
But for the average person, you could do that too. It might take you more than one try because you've never created videos like this before, but you can do that, 10 times and see, all right, well, out of these 10 tries that I did, this video works the best. It's almost profitable. So therefore, if we spend a little bit more money and time on it, then we can get it profitable. But don't think that your first one right out of the gate spending $50,000 is going to make you a ton of money. I think that's a huge mistake.
Makes complete sense. And as you said, someone like you who has been doing video marketing for so long, and you're one of the best people I know on planet, I guess, with
Thanks.
that. But like for like example, let's say if I am running ads, right? So and I need to get an amazing video, or not even amazing, but like just a video that converts. And if I go to a videographer, right, like they can make a good video, but they don't know what converts from an ad perspective, right? Like from an ad side perspective, the hook part of it, and like how to convert someone, like. So like for me, even like I've been doing ads for a while, but for someone starting out or even like pretty early, how do you recommend they approach video marketing or video advertising, I guess?
Well, funny you ask, because we have a
Yeah.
course called Video Ads Bootcamp that
All
you can
right.
find on our website. Just Google Video Ads Bootcamp.
We'll link
But
it there. Yeah.
yeah. But I think the easiest thing to do
Yeah.
is to just look at what other people are doing. So let me give you some background on this. I'm a really lazy person. Like I don't like to do work, right?
Yep.
So I always try to find shortcuts. And I teach this in our Viral Academy course too. Like when you're coming up with a new YouTube channel, don't try to reinvent the wheel. Like don't write your own freaking like Game of Thrones movie. Just look at a channel that's already working, copy 80% of what they're doing, and then add your own 20%. And so I think that goes like that's really how I operate a lot of things in business too, especially when it comes to ads. Don't try to just write something that you think is going to work. Just look at what already works for other people. You can do this looking at a Facebook ad library, right? Facebook literally shows you all the companies that are running ads, and you can look at which ads they've been running for X amount of time. So if you see something that has a lot of likes, a lot of views, they're probably paying a shit ton of money for it, which means it's probably working. Yeah. And so you can just copy that ad, right? Not word for word exactly, but look at the high level, Maybe it's a testimonial where they talk about this thing, they talk about this thing, they talk about this thing. You can say, okay, well, we have customers we can get testimonials from. They'll talk about the same exact things.
Yep.
And so you can just do that and backwards engineer what is already working for other people. So I think in order to get started, that's where I would go. Other than our Viral Ads Bootcamp course, that's what I would do is try to backwards engineer what's already been working for your competitors or even outside of your industry as well.
Makes sense. How would you recommend about YouTube though?
So with YouTube, it's a little bit different because you cannot look at the ads that people are running. However, you can kind of like there's kind of like a sneaky way to do it, which is when you go to somebody's website, they usually retarget you, right? Yep. So if you go to jumpcut.com, you're for sure getting our ads. Yep. Like 100% you're getting our ads. And just browse around YouTube and you'll see that, eventually you'll see our ad and you can click on it and save it. Okay. So with YouTube, you can do the same thing. You're just going to have to like basically browse around and watch different ads until you see one that resonates with you, and then you can copy that.
Makes sense. Would you say that with YouTube, it's all about that first few seconds?
I wouldn't say it's all about the first few seconds.
I mean, is that one of the most important parts, would you say, like stopping someone?
It definitely is, because and not in the way that you think. So most people think, all right, I got to stop as many people as possible. That's actually not true. Like we have an ad that has a very, very low cost per lead, so cost per email that we get, but it converts really terribly because it's the wrong type of people, right?
Right.
And so, we're getting their email, but they're not buying the product because this ad specifically targets a lot of kids, even though YouTube says they're 18 and over, they're
Yep.
really not. When we
Yep.
survey them, it's kids. And so what you have to do is there's a fine line between like way too engaging or like engaging for the wrong people and then not engaging enough. So you want to be really engaging so that people don't skip your ad, obviously,
Right.
but you also want to be mindful of like, is this messaging actually going to get them to buy the product?
Makes sense. Awesome.
Yeah. So I think it's definitely one of the most important parts, but the rest of the ad is also important too, because that can lead people to either think a certain way about your product or take a certain action or not take a certain action. So, I think of video ads, I think I mentioned this earlier, kind of like a hypnosis. Like your people click on a video, right? They want to see dogs failing and cute cat videos, whatever. Your ad comes up, you have to get them to decide every 5 seconds, I want to continue watching the next 5 seconds.
Right.
So yes, the first 5 seconds is really important, but you have to keep doing that all the way to at least when you have a call to action.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Awesome. Let's move this to YC. This podcast is about YC alums. What was your
Yeah.
YC experience like?
I loved it, man. I loved it. And I always tell people that they should go through it because it is such a huge, huge help. So, from the financing perspective, as I mentioned, it was really hard for us to raise money
Yep.
prior to YC. After demo day, dude, we had, I think, like 200 and something people reach out to us via that little app that they
Yep.
have. They don't really reach out. They just say, hey, I'm interested. And then you email them. So, we went from like getting one meeting per week with investors prior to YC to after demo day. Dude, I had back to back hour-long meetings packed every day for 8 hours a day,
Wow.
9 hours a day. Yeah, that's not including like driving time, lunch, going to different offices, all that stuff. Um, Actually, on the first week, because people wanted to, because YC is just like, there's a lot of hype around demo day. For the first week, we actually rented out an office at like some like WeWork kind of place, and we had the investors come to us.
No way.
So yeah, every day, just back to back to back, we would have investors come to us, and then we would pitch them, and they would say yes or no. And in the end, we were able to raise $1.85 million. With that said, that's not the only aspect of it. I think the other side of it is the network. It's just like really, really smart people. I think famously YC has a lower acceptance rate than Harvard in terms of applications to acceptance. And you're just around really great people who kick your ass, and you're just like, fuck, man, these guys are just doing so fucking well. I'm motivated to do this too, right? And on top of that, they have these social events like Camp YC, for example, where you just meet really awesome people and you're able to connect with them and get ideas from them in ways that you wouldn't have been able to otherwise. So I think the network is just super, super undervalued, at least in the public eye, or like at least from the way I saw it out when I was sorry. The network is undervalued from an outsider's perspective because they don't really get to experience all these things and they don't really understand how big of an impact that the network makes.
Makes complete sense. And actually funny, I started going to Camp YCs after you like I first 2 years I didn't go because I never really I was like, oh, it's so far away. But then I remember chatting with you and you said you had the best time ever, like the especially when they were doing the overnight ones. And
Oh yeah, they stopped doing that, which is very unfortunate. But
yeah,
that one was. I hope they do that again soon.
everyone says that, by the way, that they should be doing that more. So YC should listen to their own advice and listen to their users.
yeah, but it's like probably 4 times more expensive for them.
That's fair. But yeah, after that, like I mean, last 2 years I've gone, and yeah, it's been an amazing experience. Like even my first client even came through there, and like and from
Oh,
so
cool.
on. Yeah, like it's been such an amazing network of people, and you learned so much. It's like, yeah. I have one last question because
Mhm.
you have this you've had an amazing journey for the last 10 years where like you know like the growth that you've seen. I'm sure you've made a lot of mistakes along the way.
Of course, yeah.
What would be the one or two biggest ones would you say which you could change or what had the biggest yeah mistake you made?
Um, Geez, there's so many. I think the biggest mistake, at least in what we did, was to just not focus on the product enough. There was always this kind of like dichotomy of should we focus on making money or should we focus on making the product better? And we always had to decide between the two. And I think we always chose money,
Okay.
right? And that's how we were able to grow to $12 million dollars a year in 3 years. But I think if we changed our focus to focus on the product and really focus on like how can we make these people successful, we probably wouldn't have made shit for like 5, 6 years. But like year 8, 9, 10, 11, it would have grown exponentially.
Makes sense.
I still believe that to this day. One of the things that I want to do in the future is kind of go back to this creator space and figure out how to get as many success stories as possible. But that's probably the biggest mistake was to value money and profitability over product and NPS score and all that stuff.
That's awesome. Thanks so much for sharing that. That's
Yeah,
a great point. I want to end this with the four quick fire questions that I do with everybody. So one or two sentences.
nice.
We'll start with the first one. One unconventional slash thinking outside the box kind of thing you guys did in your business.
Um, One, let's see.
Actually, funny
We
thing is,
made.
sorry, cutting you
Uh-huh.
off. I remember one thing you tell me, which I thought was super genius. I just want to say that anyways. This was from your older product. This was the
Mhm.
product you came out with, the Simple 31. I remember you guys telling how like people would go and like put that product on torrent sites, and you guys went and you did it yourself. You remember?
Yeah. We
That
would
was
put our product on torrent sites and then like give them the shitty version where it says like if you want the better version of this, like click the link below this video. So then they're like, wait, but this is a torrent. There's no link, something like that.
that was what I thought.
No,
Yeah.
but I think more recently, I think what we did that was really cool was we made video ads for hiring.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, so I thought that was pretty interesting. We got a lot of good leads that way, where we would say like, do you work at Bain or do you work at like McKinsey? Because we were trying to get consultants to be in this one particular position as a marketing manager, and we would say like, chances are, there's a 60% chance you're in the type of people who want a more creative job. I forgot how the script went, but
Yeah.
like we would literally target it on LinkedIn and target people from like McKinsey or Bain or like BuzzFeed when we were looking for producers. Like, are you a producer at BuzzFeed? Well, chances are, you want a more you want a job where there's not red tape on the content or something like that, right? And so it's funny because my co-founder used to work at Bain, and his old boss emailed him. He was like, "Yo, dude, what the fuck is this? You can't be doing this." So
That's
yeah,
hilarious.
so we stopped that for a couple of companies, but it actually worked out really well. We got some really great leads. It was expensive for sure because
Yep.
you're running ads against this really super narrow audience, but it got us a lot of good people because you would literally just target producer at BuzzFeed on Facebook, right, or LinkedIn. So I
Very
think that
cool.
was probably one of the coolest things we did hiring wise.
That's very cool. Advice for someone applying to YC.
Um, Number one, have traction. Like it's very hard to get in with just an idea, unless you had some previous success in whatever company. So have some traction, have some customers, and then number two is like practice answering all the questions. You can literally just Google YC questions. Like you should have a good answer for all of them that lasts no more than 15 seconds.
Makes sense.
And if you speak longer than 15 seconds, like that's you're just wasting time.
Yep, makes sense. Advice for someone starting their first startup.
Um, I'm stealing this from, I want to say Paul Graham. or somebody. I'm stealing this from someone, but the advice is don't do it because it takes a very particular like personality to be successful in a startup, not just successful like financially and business wise, but like emotionally and mentally as
Yep.
well, right? It's really, really hard stuff. So I say my advice is don't do it. And if you still feel the need that you have to do it, then you should. But if me saying don't do it makes you second guess yourself, then just don't do it. Right. So
Love it.
that's my advice.
Love it. And last one, if there was one thing, only one thing that people could take away from you, something that has helped you in your life a lot, what would that be?
Yeah, it's honestly the biggest kind of change I've made in the last few years was just to be more in touch with my emotional side. I think a lot of people in Silicon Valley and just a lot of people who are very logical and smart thinkers in that sense, they tend to be very distant in terms of being emotionally intelligent, right? And so, um, I went through this thing called T group. It's kind of based off of a class at Stanford Business School, but it just gets you to essentially talk about how you feel, talk about how others feel, talk about things from an emotional perspective, really get to connect with people in that way. And it sounds really, really cheesy, but it's changed my life. I used to be the type of person who, I grew up in like a super strict Asian family where if you're like angry at something or if you're mad at something or you're sad about something, it's like fucking deal with it, sweep it under the rug. Um, and so I went through this program, they're called T Group, and for the first like 2 days, I was like, this is the stupidest shit ever, right? Like, what are we talking about? Emotions and all this weird stuff. And then the third and fourth day, I literally just couldn't stop crying my ass off because I realized that I had been living my life essentially the wrong way, right? I've been shutting people out. I've been ignoring my emotions. I've been not connecting with people because I thought it was weak. I was not, I wasn't caring and compassionate with my employees because I thought leaders are supposed to be like rock solid. You never show weakness, that kind of thing. And not only has it improved my professional life and being able to manage people and grow teams and recruit people, but it's helped in my personal life too. With my girlfriends, with my family, with my mom, my dad. I said I love you to my mom for the first time, like a year after I took that program. So it's just been a huge, huge game changer for me. So whether you take a program like that, or maybe you just see a therapist or a psychologist and talk about these things, it's super, super underrated, I think, in the startup community.
I love this. And by the way, after just adding this on, after you telling me about this, I actually kind of felt the same thing when I was in Bali. Just because it's such a place where people are, opening up and they're more spiritual and like they're more talking about their feelings.
Yeah.
I can finally understand what you meant because being there for so long and talking to people about that kind of stuff, like
Yeah.
I completely get it what you mean. Like I did not when you told me the first time I didn't understand it at all. I'm like, what the fuck are you
Yeah.
talking about? I
Yeah. Yeah.
completely understand it now.
Yeah, well, I think it's kind of like meditation, right? Like you can talk about it all you want, but you're not going to understand it until you do it.
Yep.
So yeah, meditation also is my other answer.
Love it. Let's end on this amazing topic. Thanks so much, man. Appreciate you doing this. It was great having you.
Cool. Thanks for having me, man.